Hi everyone, thanks for joining our webinar today, and let's get this thing started. We're excited to announce the latest version of Bacon Unlimited, Bacon 4.1. We're going to be discussing features in Bacon like patching and profiles, as well as our latest add, Apple MDM. Before we get started, I want to introduce our fabulous speakers that we have on the line today. Firstly, we have Andrew Britton, the VP of Development. Hey, Andrew.
Hey, Emily. Happy to be here.
We love that you're here as well. We've also got Dave Adekoya on the line, a senior engineer here at Bacon Unlimited. What's going on, Dave?
Hello.
Then lastly, I'm Emily Goldstone, a member of the business development team here at Bacon Unlimited. Before we get going with this demo, I want to make sure that everybody knows we have a chat feature for you all. So please ask any questions that you have during the session and don't be shy, get those questions rolling in. Also, at the end of this webinar, we're going to be launching a survey. We'd love and appreciate your feedback. It allows us to tailor the webinars and the product for all of you. Plus, whoever fills out that survey is going to be getting an awesome Bacon t-shirt. I'm wearing one right now, basically wear it every day, and I can confirm it's definitely super soft and super comfortable. And before we get started, let's do some polls. Caitlin, do you mind sending those out for me?
All right. What do you currently use for mobile device management? And we've got a few options. I see that, it's kind of all over the place. There's not one favorite. And we got another one coming up. There we go. How many tools are you currently using for patch management? 0, 1 to 2, 3, or more? Well, Dave, I tell you, I know using Bacon, how many tools I use for patch management. That answer is one.
Only one tool you need.
That's one, and it's one because it's cross-platform. Look at that, and a lot of people have 1 to 2. I imagine that's because they're either already using Bacon or they have just 1 to 2 operating systems that they need to support, and so that's why they're not using 3. But I do notice that some people are at 3 or more, and that's got to be very difficult to manage. We hope this is a useful presentation. You can see why Bacon will improve your life. Okay. Before we get going, Emily, any other mentions for us before we get to the demo?
Yes, I want to let everybody know that we have a Bacon Unlimited YouTube channel. This YouTube channel has all of our previous webinars as well as Bacon Bits, which are these bite-sized videos that Andrew puts together for all of you guys that has some highlighted portions of the product, and they're really great for training purposes. And without further ado, the floor is yours, Andrew and Dave.
Thank you so much. Dave, once you get us started, give us an overview of the product, tell us why it's great, why it's amazing, and then we'll get to the demo. How's that sound?
Sounds good. All right, so to get started here, we are very excited to show off Bacon with MDM. The MDM portion allows for much greater control of Apple devices using their MDM API, and that kind of goes in line with our cross-platform support. Andrew's mentioned it, I'm going to keep mentioning it. Bacon's able to manage Windows and Linux endpoints as well, and now we're adding in better management of macOS and also iOS and Apple TV devices. So overall, Bacon allows you to cover monitoring in your environment, patching, both simple and complex software installation, as well as being able to enforce configurations through our profile engine. And one thing to keep in mind here, which you'll see pretty shortly, is that we often hear a lot from our demos that we're giving or from current customers that our UI is very simple to use and very easy to learn. So let's go ahead and show that to you directly. Andrew, can you get us started with the overview page?
Absolutely. Very excited about this.
Awesome. So here we can see 6 different points. First off, we have alerts. That's going to be something that will tell you what's going on in your environment. So you can set alerts for if a service is on and offline. You can have a profile alert. And as you see Andrew's mousing over here, you can actually mouse over each of those little boxes to see what that alert is, what part of the environment it's talking about. Next up, we have endpoints. This is a very simple one. Is the endpoint online or offline? Again, we're able to mouse over this. We can actually click on these too. Andrew, can you go ahead and click on connected for us?
My pleasure.
This is going to lead us to our endpoints table, already filtered for the connected devices. Excellent. Let's go ahead and go back to the overview. Next up, we have distribution. So this will show you what operating systems you have in Bacon. Then we have patches, again, split by operating system. That's how many patches you can push out from Bacon to those different endpoints. And then we have antivirus protection. So this is a good one. This is going to track if you have AV in your environment. You can either do this by software, or we always prefer by service. The nice thing about this is we allow you to define your antivirus service. So if you have a couple, maybe 3 or 4, just different licenses running all at once, you're not relying on us to keep the list up to date. You can actually go into Bacon, select the services you need, and then that will contribute to this number here being reported. And lastly here, we have encrypted hard drives. So again, another kind of similar security focus. This is going to show you the drives you have in your environment that are encrypted versus unencrypted. And that's going to cover your OS native encryption. So like in case of Windows, it's going to be BitLocker. Mac OS has a variant, Linux has several variants. Those will all be incorporated over here in this display. All right, let's go ahead and walk down the nav bar on the left-hand side. So next up, let's go to monitoring. Thank you. So here we have rules. We're able to configure different rules in here using things like disk thresholds or CPU thresholds, as well as other things like I want to track a service. So is my SQL service running, right? That's all doable in here. It's pretty easy, pretty simple. Perfect. Next up, we have profiles. So this is a different kind of alert. This is going to allow you to alert based on your profiles that you send to the machine. And so this could be something very simple like, I want everybody to have a specific background. And if they don't have that background, alert me. Or probably more likely is going to be, I want everyone to have USB ports disabled on their machine, so you can't plug in USB sticks or external hard drives. If they're enabled, please alert me, right? That's another thing you can do just straight through Bacon. So you know that both your profiles have been applied, and if they aren't, you can take action on it. Next up, let's actually scroll up and go over to alerts. So when an alert triggers in your environment, this is a page you can go to see the endpoint it's been triggered on, a brief description of what's happening, and which alert triggered it. So here we have just a couple in our demo environment here, but this is where you would go to kind of figure out what's going on, either dismiss that alert or look into it further. Alrighty, moving right along, let's go over to the endpoint table. Perfect. So here we're going to see the endpoint table. You'll spend a lot of time here in Bacon. This is going to pull back a lot of different data points for you. So if we actually go to columns in the top right, you're going to see all the things we're able to pull back with Bacon. And so that can be things like your host name, your IP address, as well as other things like serial number, right? That's something that you may want to have even if the machine's offline. And all this information can be easily exported from the actions button. And that'll go into a spreadsheet. So you can just pull this right into reporting or just review it in a spreadsheet. Pretty simple, button click. All right, Andrew, if we want to go ahead and remove that connected filter.
My pleasure, Dave.
Just going to click on the X there. Perfect. Let's go ahead and take a look, excuse me, at an endpoint. This one we can pick Burger Baby. Perfect. Andrew, can you kind of walk us through what we're seeing here?
Absolutely. This is our recently redesigned endpoint detail page. And what you'll notice is that with 4.0 and 4.1, we've added even a few new features to make this page more informational. Along the top, you'll see these different section selectors. And while these take us to different sections and allow us to have a very detailed view, The other purpose of these is to provide live, real-time feedback so that you can always have a quick sense of the health and behavior of this endpoint. So you'll see that even though I'm looking at my list of software over here, I can see that in the logs I have, 14 jobs, 3 succeeded, 3 failed. It's inside of 3 groups. It has 5 MDM profiles assigned to it. It has 1 AV service, 0 AV services are running, so I'm certainly going to want to look at that. And it provides great information, and you can jump in and have a look. Under the disk, if there is a recovery key, like let's say for Mac OS or for Windows BitLocker, you'd be able to view the recovery key here as well. So this is really a way to dig down deep into the health of that endpoint. Thank you so much, Dave.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. All right, next up, let's go over to groups. So we have 2 different kinds of groups available in Bacon. We have static groups. Those are going to be good for things like a patch testing group or maybe an IT machines group, something that you want to stay the same and not have any kind of automation behind it as far as which machines are in or outside of that group. Next, we have dynamic groups. So previously in the endpoint table, we saw we had a filter there. We're actually able to create dynamic groups from that table, and we can use the filters to set classifiers for why the endpoints are in that group. So we can do something like split it off by IP address, or in this case, this is actually a filter for if the machine does not have Chrome. So maybe we want to push Chrome to machines, but only the ones that need it. That's the kind of group we can use. Once they get Chrome installed, then they'll drop off of this group and they won't get that job if you push it again. Thank you, Andrew. Just to kind of note, so these can be used for both software installations like we were talking about, as well as in our monitoring section for a group of endpoints you want to monitor, and also for our profile side. So a group you want to push a profile over to. All right, next up we have MDM devices, but we'll kind of cover that in just a moment. Let's move over to software. Perfect. So here we have our software table. If you look at the platform column, the second one over there, it's going to show you we have Mac OS, we have Windows, CentOS. This covers all the machines, or excuse me, all the endpoints in your environment, as well as all the devices in your environment. So from this single page, we can see both software installed on a Mac laptop, on a Windows server, and on an iPhone. Let's go ahead and actually filter this software table by platform. And we're going to choose Windows, just to kind of what we're looking at. Perfect, thank you. So one thing I want to point out here is we have a number of endpoints column. This is going to show you the number of endpoints you have in your environment that have that same software version. If we click on some software here, you're going to see a list of endpoints that have that software. And then the top right, you'll actually have an option to uninstall that. That'll kick off an uninstall job, and you can choose which machines you'd like to pull it off of as well. All right, let's go over to services. All right, this is a very similar UI. Just a couple things to note though. We're able to actually use this menu here to choose our AV services we were talking about earlier. And then if we're to click on one of these services, pick any at random, should be fine. Perfect. One thing to note is we're able to enable or disable, start and stop this service on each endpoint from this actions page here. All right, next up, we have patching. This is something a lot of people love. Let's go over there and take a look. All right, so we have our patching table filtered by Mac OS for this one. You kind of want to give everybody some equal time. So here we can see the patches we have available for our Mac OS endpoints. Do keep in mind we can also see patches for iOS or Apple TV endpoints in here as well. Just depends on what your filter is set to. So Andrew, would you like to walk us through what it's like to patch an endpoint through Bacon?
Absolutely. I'm really excited about this because we'll be showing what it's like to patch and using some of the new MDM as well. So I'll take, let's say this Safari 16 Big Sur. One of the things you'll see about the patching is even though this is Mac, we've added categorization. And the reason I would like to bring that up is the Mac patch platform doesn't automatically categorize the updates. So we've written specific code to ensure that there's good categorization of all these updates. And as with every other time you see a row item on a table, there's an actions menu. And so this user experience is it's the same throughout. If you see a row item, there's going to be some kind of action you can do on it. And the reason I bring that up now is just to point out how simple the user experience is, regardless of which part of the product that you're using. And the actions for this, obviously, we could view it, hide it, or install it. And what we're going to do now is just do an install. And this is our patching table with the patch. This is our patch selected. Now I could also go back and do an unfiltered selection. I could select 600 patches here, Dave, and those patches could cross all of our supported platforms. And the nice thing about that, what I want to bring, just discuss real fast, is that if we have, say, 600 patches that are all selected and it's over 7 operating systems and 200 machines, all 200 machines would show up at this endpoint table. And Bacon would be smart enough to know to only push the patches out for the systems that need that patch. So we wouldn't be trying to push out a Mac OS update on a Windows system or vice versa. We have very targeted, very intelligent patch installation. And it's one of our clients' favorite features. Now to this specific example here, because I wanted to discuss more of the MDM because that's such a hot new feature for the product, is we have this Big Sur update and it belongs on this computer. You'll notice that it's offline, but Dave, that's not an obstacle for us. I'm going to show you why. Using the new MDM management style, the great thing about this is we don't have to decide if we're going to try and push it out now or queue that job later. Like back to the example, if we had 200 computers here that we had to push across, some of those would be offline and some of them would be online, and you'd have to figure out what your installation kind of scheduling would be. With MDM, the way that MDM is a job queue and just how it natively works, since this computer is offline, I can still select any of these options. The job will not fail. It will just go into a waiting mode until this computer comes back online. And so the MDM style patch options are a default, which is, download and then install. We could say just download it. We could, because this is a Mac OS computer, we could actually install and force a reboot right now. And that's a very attractive option for certain types of computer and hardware configurations. Obviously, if someone's working on mission critical work, you don't want to force a restart. But if if you're doing this off hours or in a scheduled window, forcing a restart is a very powerful tool set to be able to have. And lastly, and this is a real favorite one for computers that have users on them all the time, and this would be install, but with a user allowed delay. And what this option down here, Dave, is we can set the user can delay this update, but maybe we only want to let them delay it for 2 days. Or maybe because this is just a Safari update instead of an OS update, maybe we can let them push it back for 7 days. And so this is a nice feature because it allows for a little bit of give and take between the admin side and the users who have to use the computer. And then, once I've set my scheduling options, I've got my computer selected, Dave, all I do is hit install. and then it goes straight to MDM, and MDM just takes care of the rest of it. So let's say in a day or 3 days when this computer comes back online, it will start processing all of those MDM actions that we sent to it. I like it a lot. It's a great feature, and I really think everyone else will as well. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you. Looks super easy. Alrighty, so next up, let's go over to our repository. And we're going to start with files. So put simply, this is a file repository. We're able to upload files into the Bacon server. If you go ahead and scroll down, you can see we have a drag and drop area, or if you click on that, it'll open up an Explorer prompt. You can kind of go through your file system and pull things into the system that way. You can upload any file type you need. And ultimately, this is going to be a file dropper, and then we can choose to execute something. So this can be used for, let's say, pushing font files or maybe a license file, as well as pushing an executable for an actual installation. One thing to note here too, Andrew, if we actually pick this batch file here, it's about the 5th one down or so, we go over to actions. Thank you. Here we can view the file, we can edit the file, we can create a bundle, which I'll cover in just a moment. We can download that file from the server onto your computer. We can remove it entirely, or we can deploy it. Copy link is something we'll kind of cover later. It's how we use these with profiles. So let's actually go over to edit. So here we can see, I guess this file is blank, but we have a full UI here that you can actually edit a file. So if you have an XML you have to make changes to, we can edit that XML. And it's going to be a lot simpler than trying to delete it and re-upload it. Yeah, exactly like that. Thank you, Andrew. All right, let's go ahead and go back to our files menu. All right, so next up, we're going to cover bundles. So from this files menu, we're able to select multiple files. And then we can push those into a bundle that you see here. And so this can be very useful for more complex installations. So if you're installing VLC, it's a single executable. You just push that over, you deploy it, very simple. But let's say if you want to install Microsoft Office with customizations, that's going to have an Office executable, an XML file, and then like a batch or a PowerShell file to kind of kick everything off. So that's an example of a more complex install. Here, let's take a look at, let's say, our Notepad++ install. I'm going to go ahead and click on that for us. Perfect. So here we just have Notepad++ and a script to install it. It's as simple as creating a bundle, and then you'll actually choose Launcher. So the second column here, when we choose Launcher, that's what Bacon's going to execute. And so this will bundle the whole thing, push it over to the machine, and then run it. Let's go ahead and look at what a deployment would look like. Perfect. So here we can see we have endpoints. You can filter by, again, those criteria you're using earlier, as well as something like a group. We have the installation location. This is where the files will be placed on the machine, and that's local to the machine. We have run as, so you can run it either as system by default, or you can specify a specific user to execute this as. Then we have executable flags. So if you're running, let's say, an MSI installer and you want it to run silently, you can throw in a /q there. Or maybe your specific installer has a way to enter a license key or server information. That's where this would go. That's where that would go. There we go. Next up, we have scheduled deploy time. So much like patching, it's going to be very similar, except for we don't have relentless mode. So this is going to deploy it right away to machines that are online, deploy a specified time, or when connected. So that'll cover both machines that are online and then machines that are offline once they come back online. And so this kind of UI here is very good for one-time things. Let's say I want to push out an application to 100 computers today. There's another method we'd recommend for automated stuff. We'd still use the file repository to get those files into Bacon, but we have other methods to keep it let's say, rolling automatically versus just coming in here every day and pushing the deploy button. So next up here, as we walk down this UI, let's go ahead and look at MDM. So Andy, this is kind of your thing. You want to give us a brief overview?
Absolutely. I'd love to. Thank you, Dave. So MDM, right now what I'm going to walk us through is going to be two parts. One, how to connect your Bacon to MDM so it can make use of the Apple push notification system, as well as signing up for the Apple Business Manager. After I talk about the sign up and the integration connections, I'll then talk about how to get your computers on Bacon using the manual enrollment process. So to start with, just getting your MDM configured is very simple. And I know in webinars, everyone likes to say my thing is simple and theirs is not, but ours is really simple. Ours is 3 steps simple, in fact. So for setting up Apple push notifications, you download a file that automatically comes with Bacon. There's no like 5-minute, file render time. You just get a file. You open up the Apple certificate portal, upload the file that you downloaded from step 1, follow a few prompts. This takes all of about 2 minutes. Then you'll get a push certificate downloaded at the end of step 2. Take that push certificate downloaded and upload it right here. You can drag drop it or click this to open up and traverse to the file system. And that's it. That's what it takes to get your Apple push notifications set up for Bacon. And you'll know that it's set up because you'll see the actual certificate information right here. You'll know that it's authentic. You'll know where it comes from. You even know who uploaded it and when you need to renew it by. You'll see a green check mark here that says the certificate is good, ready to go, and tells you, wait, we have 285 days left on this, Dave, so I don't think I need to worry about this month or next month. But in a few months, I just want to come back and revisit and schedule this so that I don't get down to the last day and I'm scrambling to get the certificate re-updated. Business Manager, again, very simple. Download a public key, upload that public key to the Apple Business Manager, follow their very simple instructions, download that MDM token, and in step 3, you upload that MDM token. So again, Dave, this is really simple. Each one of these processes was a 3-step process. And at the end of each 3 steps, there's a verification along the top and a time left that shows the expiration of that, either that token or that certificate. It's very simple, very easy to use, very informative. And with that, I think I'm going to transroll. I can't talk today. My Porky Pig moment, Dave. I'm now going to roll into the enrollment profiles. Roll into the enrollment. I like what I did there. Moving right along. Enrollment profiles, Dave, are a very simple way if you choose not to use the Apple Business Manager. Enrollment profiles are a very simple way to get your iPhones, iPads, your Apple TVs, your macOS computers under your Bacon MDM management. And you'll see that we offer 3 different enrollment profiles. And I like this a lot because each of these comes with a different customizable or a different permission set. You'll see that the ABM is the one permission set that's not customizable. And this one is generally used by our clients in terms of the hardware is owned by the company. This is the company owned enrollment paradigm right here. And because it's a company owned device, they want to have complete management control over that device. Now, how do they do it? It's very simple, Dave. On that device, they go to this URL, and this URL, you can send this in a team message, SMS, and email, wherever, and then they input this PIN. And on the enrollment page, you input a PIN, it downloads that enrollment profile, and the user can install it. And this is just really simple. Apple has made this very simple for admin and non-admin users alike to install. Now, our other two enrollment profiles, Dave, relate to other types of ownership paradigms. We have one specifically called BYOD for bring your own device. And with the bring your own device permission set, you might choose to disallow erasing the device from the Bacon admin portal. You might also say, well, you can't lock that device because these are most likely employee-owned devices instead of company-owned devices. You might also say turn off allow Bacon to install and remove provision profiles, but maybe you might keep on allow manipulation of settings or app management. Again, this is up to you, and that's why we have these toggles in place. You will find that some of these toggles are still locked, and those locked ones, Dave, these are just to be able to make sure that Bacon can get useful information off that device. If we can't get information, then it's not really a management style paradigm, and then at that point you're not probably really using MDM if you're not going to manage things. Now we have this other standard over here, and this is very similar in use to the bring your own device, but we threw in a third one because this one will allow you to customize based on some third type of, let's say, permissions hybrid. Maybe it's not company owned completely or employee owned, but maybe it's company owned but with employee personal use. And so here you might have some slight changes to the permission sets. You also notice that at the bottom of each one of these enrollment profiles, there is a unique PIN, and that is how the users separate out which enrollment profile they're going to download and install. It's just a simple PIN number. You send the PIN to the user or the admin for whichever profile is going to be installed. It's the same URL, just change in PIN, download it, install, and it's managed. I should say download, install, and you now show up on our pending table. We do choose here to, let's say I want to enable this device, so I will. And now this Aaron's MacBook Pro is an enabled device, meaning I can now use Apple MDM inside of Bacon to manage this device. And that's a very powerful setting because sometimes someone, some nefarious actor out there, Dave, might get the URL, might install an enrollment profile, and they might think that they can all of a sudden have access to your company's, apps, or to their company's network and management network. But the Bacon admin here can still say, you know what? I don't know those devices. I don't know what this one is. So I'm going to disable that or just never enable it. And as long as it's not enabled, there will be no MDM control of that. So thank you so much, Dave, for allowing me to explain this. I really like this new MDM feature. I think it's really powerful.
Awesome, thank you very much. All right, so we've gone over how to actually get MDM up and running. Let's take a look at what it can do for us and things that's changed in Bacon. Let's actually start over at the endpoints table. Perfect, thank you. All right, so now that we have MDM set up, it gives us a little bit more access to things we can do on Mac OS. If we actually look at Aaron's MacBook Pro up here, and we click on Actions on the right-hand side, we're going to see we have both Bacon actions and MDM actions. So from the Bacon actions kind of thing, or excuse me, the Bacon actions side of things, we can set up things like disabling USB port access. From the MDM side of things, we now have the option to wipe the device, encrypt the device, maybe lock it if it's lost or stolen. And that last one is to install MDM profiles. So this is just a little quick example of what kind of updates we've done to the endpoint side when dealing with Mac OS endpoints that are now in MDM. Let's go ahead and take a look at MDM devices. We skipped this earlier. This one's going to show you the mobile devices you have and Apple TVs. I guess you could throw it. That makes it kind of mobile. So we have iPhones, we have iPads, and Apple TVs here. Let's go ahead and take a look at their action side. I'm going to go over there and just click on actions from one of these items. It's going to look very similar. So we have the option to encrypt, we can lock it. We also have some new ones like log the user out, restart it, and then we have shutdown, wipe, that kind of thing. Thank you, Andrew. Let's go ahead and look at Andrew Britton's iPhone, or A Britton iPhone. Very top one there. Perfect. All right, Andrew, much like last time, you want to give us a quick walkthrough of what we're seeing here?
I'd be happy to. Thank you. As the VP of development, I can guarantee you that one of our guiding ethics in the product is to make sure that the user experience is similar and that we have a very cross-platform approach and view of products. So this device detail page, it looks very similar to a standard endpoint detail page. You will notice, of course, that because this is extremely different hardware and hardware requirements, the information presented references and respects the hardware itself. So here you'll see our network. We have more network information, and that's because this is a mobile device. You'll see that as there are MAC addresses for the different types of interfaces, you'll see them listed here. This one has 2 listed. This is a cellular capable device, although there is no active service subscription. But we still see the IMEI number. We can still see that this is not roaming right now. Because there's no active service subscription, you'll see that the options for is data preferred and is voice preferred are not relevant. So those are like dark gray circles instead of off or on. But just like our endpoint detail page, we still do have a policy showing. You'll see that right now there are no MDM profiles assigned. You know, we see the number of software installed and if there were any jobs run against this one. This particular device, we appear not to have any jobs run against it. And just like on a standard endpoint detail page over in the top right, you'll also see actions that we could run against this. And these are the same actions that, Dave, that you were showing earlier on the MDM device table itself. So again, very similar design. Each one of these section selectors does provide live real-time feedback information so that even as you're looking at one part, you can still see the information about each other section. So thank you, Dave.
Thank you. Alrighty, so we've seen the different changes to the endpoints table and now the new MDM devices part of hardware. Let's take a look at the option here that says settings on the left-hand side and go to MDM here. So just a scenario, we have our devices in MDM, we've enabled them. When we come to this table, it's going to show you the profiles you have already configured on those devices. If we look at the actions on the right-hand side here, you'll see we have the ability to actually import these into Bacon. So you can take a device that's already been configured, pull those profiles off, and then add those profiles into Bacon. You can also revoke that profile from that device, download it, that way you can edit it, or we can view it, where you can see more like the XML and the other parts of it, which we'll look at in just a moment here. Yeah, let's actually look at desktop BLT. I'm going to click view. So here we have the file name. That's that very familiar .mobile config if you're used to making these profiles. We have an identifier, just unique for the system. Then we have a description. What does this thing do? On the right-hand side, one thing I do want to highlight is we can see we have a little Apple logo there to signify this is for Mac. We have red next to unsigned. You're able to sign these in Bacon, which we'll see in just a moment. And then we have a little green lock icon, so the user can remove this profile should they choose to do so. Right below that, we have our familiar endpoints table. Again, same filter, same quick search. And below that, we have the ability to actually view the XML. So I don't really read these things. I don't make Apple profiles strictly from a notepad, but you could do so if you wanted to. So here you can actually look at the configurations and scroll through to figure out what this profile is actually doing under the hood without having to download it and open it up somewhere else. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at what happens once we've added profiles to Bacon either through an import or we've uploaded them. So on the left-hand side, we'll go to Profiles and MDM. So this will be a mix of the profiles that we've imported. You can see we have BLT there as the second line item, as well as profiles that we've uploaded. Right below this table, we have that same interface to drag and drop a profile, or click to go through your file explorer and upload the profile. There are a couple changes here. Let's go ahead and click on the Actions menu of one of these profiles. On this side, we still have View, but now we have Deploy. So we can send this profile out to devices. We can remove it. We can download it, same as before. And then here's an option we have to sign the profile. Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. So we've kind of covered the MDM side of profiles and how we do, or how we set up profiles for macOS and for iOS devices. Let's kind of return back to the original stuff. We can set up profiles for Linux devices, Windows, and also macOS. So let's go over to states. Thank you. So on the other side here, we're able to configure states. You can kind of think of them like GPOs, but they're a little bit more powerful than that. And they can just set configurations in your environment. So here we see we have disable USB storage registry. Let's go ahead and go into that. So this is going to allow you to disable USB storage devices on your machine. We're doing this through the registry because if you go through the GPO route, you're going to have to reboot before it takes effect. If you go the registry route, as we're doing here, it takes effect immediately. So here we can see we have on line 24, reg present. So we're basically going to give it a registry key to use on line 25. Then we're going to define the type of value. In this case, it's a D word value. And then line 28, number 4, just that's the actual value we're putting in there. What this means though is that you can take this and make any kind of registry key change with this. You simply swap out line 21, kind of describe what you're doing. Maybe I'm gonna, I don't know, disable shared mailboxes in Outlook. Then line 25, you can change that out for your registry key. And 9 times out of 10 is probably gonna be a D word value. So line 26, we change the name of what you're actually modifying. And 28, we change the value. Perfect, Andrew, thank you. Alrighty, can we go back to the states page? All right, next up, let's go over to our LGPO we have here. So we actually have an LGPO, a local group policy, configured. And this is going to allow us to modify what happens with Windows automatic updates. Let's go ahead and click Edit over here. So here is a little bit more of a complex setup, but it's also very powerful. So we can configure automatic updates, and this will let us set everything you're going to see in that LGPO menu we'll have available here. So we can set the kind of thing we want it to do, in this case, auto download and schedule the install. We can even select the day of the month that we'd like. You can see the very last 4 lines there have false, 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 true. So this will occur at the 4th week of the month. If you look up a little bit earlier, it's going to show the day that we're going to schedule it and the time we're going to schedule it. So again, this is very detailed and very granular. So you can set up whatever you have to do in your environment exactly how you need it. Perfect. Let's go ahead and return back to that states menu. All right, lastly, what if we want to install software? So earlier I talked about how you can deploy software from the repository as like a one-time action. This is how you can automate that software. So let's go ahead and edit this one. So an easy scenario here is, let's say we're doing workstation provisioning, right? We've got 5 or 6 pieces of software everybody needs. We want to make sure they're on the machine. So just as a walkthrough, you can set up a dynamic group and you'll have your new machines. Let's say we just have a prefix of new dash and then the serial number. It'll get dropped in that group and we can apply a profile that runs all these states. So in this case, we're installing Firefox. Again, pretty simple. Line 3 is going to be the good part. So we're going to run an MSI exec because it's an MSI we're installing. The salt that you're seeing there in yellow, that's going to be what we get from the copy link option in the file repository we were looking at earlier. once you get a hang of it, it's actually pretty simple to use and to swap out. Again, now that you've done one MSI, you can do 12 MSIs just by swapping out the file it's linking to. Line 4 is pretty critical though. So line 4 is going to basically tell the system, only run this if Firefox exe is not present at this file path. What that means is your state's now safe to run whenever it needs to without reinstalling Firefox every time the profile runs, which wouldn't be good. All right, let's go ahead and go back to states. And if we click on the actions of one of these states, we're getting an option that says to profile. So this is a quick way to go to profile, or what we're actually going to do is go over to profiles on the left-hand side and look at all of them. So here we have our profiles. Profiles are simply a collection of states. You can have states in many different profiles. You can have states only in one profile. That's up to you. Let's go ahead and take a look at, and you can kind of pick one at random. Right, yeah.
Yeah, and here it is.
BG info setup, that's a good one. So in this profile, we'll define our OS platform. It's going to be different by OS just due to how the OS is kind of different when you're coding stuff and setting stuff up. And then we have our refresh rate. So this is going to be the counter for how often does this profile try to apply. In this case, to 5 hours. If we scroll down, we then have a view of the states table we were just looking at, and we can select the states we would like to be part of this profile. And as you can see, we have order. This allows us to kind of toggle which ones run in which order. So say you need one application installed before another, it'd be pretty simple to make 2 states and just order them as you need those actions to occur. All right, let's actually go back to the state page and just look at what a deployment would look like. So we can go back to, I guess, our BG info state and click deploy. Awesome. So like I mentioned earlier, you deploy profiles to groups. If we set up a new device provisioning group, it would be here, or maybe one of our static groups for a group of test machines. We could deploy it there. We'd simply select the group. And if you scroll down, all we have to do is deploy. Very simple. Alrighty, really quick, let's actually go look at what would happen if we did deploy it. So if we look on the left-hand side, let's go over to the jobs menu. Perfect. So when you deploy jobs, it's going to be very detailed in what it does. It's going to put every single job here. You see we have over 109,000 just as we test things. That's where all the information goes once you deploy it. So it's very easy to look at if it actually ran properly, which devices it ran on. Let's actually just click on one of those jobs. Click on the very top one there. Awesome. So as the jobs run, you'll see we have task detail. That's going to show you what's actually being run against. In this case, we have one device. And the task log is going to return back every job that was running. So if you have scripts, it'll return the script output. If you have any errors, it'll return the error output. So everything you do in Bacon is nice and neatly logged. All right, next up, let's go ahead and click on schedules on the left-hand side. So this is how you're going to show off, or excuse me, not show off, but check. I'm showing off. This is how you're going to check which scheduled jobs you have running in your environment or which profiles you deployed. And so from here, we're able to see the interval they're being deployed at, aka how long until it refreshes itself, the most recent job ID, which is actually a hyperlink, so you can click on it to go to the most recent job. Then if we look over at actions, we have the ability to either run it right away. Let's say if we're testing something or we just introduce a new device, we can run it right now, or we can cancel it, and that'll stop it from automatically executing on the endpoints. Alrighty, and last up here, let's go ahead and take a look at administration and take a look at users. Awesome. So one thing I do want to cover is that we're able to kind of handle diverse group of role-based access control. So you can add users into the system here, or we have the ability to integrate into local on-prem Active Directory, so over LDAP. And then we're able to assign these roles to users, but also to groups. So we can assign you the patching role to a specific group, maybe at your home location of the site you actually work on. Or we can just give you full admin and you have access to the entire system. So we're able to be very flexible in which parts of Bacon you can see and use and who you can assign those different roles to by group as well. All right, thank you very much, Andrew.
Thank you, Dave. It's been a pleasure.
All right, and Emily, let's go ahead and turn it over to you. We've kind of showed off all we have to show today.
Yes, thank you both for that fabulous demo, and thank you everybody else who took time out of their day to watch our webinar with us. Our Bacon Unlimited team is going to be reaching out to you to set up a personalized demo, so be on the lookout for that via phone and email. Also, please don't forget to fill out that post-event survey so we can include an awesome t-shirt along with the rest of your Bacon swag, and I hope everyone has a great rest of their day.